as a place that these people would camp, continuing running stream, and so on. Some vegetation into it, as you might expect. Well, after the family left that first camp, they moved south. And they came to a place, the place, Nephi writes, the place which was called Nahom. Now, notice that it's passive, meaning that somebody else had named the place. And all the other stops, it was family members who named it. It seems it was Lehi the first time, and then when they reached Bountiful, it seems to have been family agreement or something. But Lehi names the river, River Laman, the Valley of Lemuel. Later on, he calls the place Shazar, and so on as they go south. But when they reach Nahom, it's a place that already enjoys a pre-existing name. It was a couple from Australia, Sister Aston, who began to poke around, and using a clue from a one-page article by Ross Christensen, who used to be, he's now passed away, he used to be on the faculty of anthropology and archaeology here at BYU, and a one-page article once in the Era. And in there he said that he had noticed that a German geographer had noted a place called Nahom, N-E-H-H-M. And he thought, well, maybe there's a connection with this spot in South Arabia and Lehi's, or this place called Nahom. Well, the Astons did a bit of research. They found that this name also appeared in Arabic sources, which go back to the early Islamic period, 9th and 10th centuries AD. That it's known as the place name, and it's also known as a tribal name. And that it's in a place where if you then draw a line across Arabia to southern Oman, it's about eastward from about right here over to here. Okay, so they have pushed this thing back to 19th century AD. The problem with that is we're still a millennium and a half distant from the time the Lehi and Sarai traveled through this area. They went through there about 600 BC. The Astons identified Arabic sources that go back to about the 9th century AD. So we're still somewhat apart. Okay. I've become interested in an exhibit that was in Paris. I saw a notice of it in a magazine. It was an exhibit of ancient Yemen artifacts. We're hoping that in 3 or 4 years it might make it to BYU. It's now showing in Europe. I think it just opened in Spain. So I saw a couple of pieces that were photographed in the article that I read, and so I bought the catalog. Catalog arrived, and I did some photography work of some altars. They're incense altars that were donated to temples in South Arabia. They were inscribed that preserve the name of the donor and the father's name and the grandfather's name and the tribal name and the occasion which brought the donation and so on. And I was photographing some of them. Then I decided that I'd better, because I think that let me back up a little bit. I've been interested in why Lehi called great spacious buildings strange. And I've concluded in my own mind that it's because it was different architecturally from what he'd seen in his own surroundings. In South Arabia, all architecture is square. There's not a circle, there's not an arch or anything like that. All of the doorways and all the windowways are with lintels across. There's no such thing as an arch and so on. And I suspect that the architecture is strange to his eye, I saw it. And I've also learned that architecture can be preserved in miniature. We know something about what the Church of the Holy Sepulchre used to look like. because European travelers came and visited the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, went back and made miniatures in metals or in other sort of media to preserve what they saw. So I thought that, well, these little altars preserve architectural features. And so I was reading the description of one of the altars that was pictured in the guide, the catalog which was traveling with this exhibit then in Paris. And it said, Beathar, son of so-and-so, son of so-and-so, the Nahomite, N-I-H-M is the name of it. Well, N-H-M is the name of his tribe. And the excavator who wrote the description dates this inscribed altar to the 7th, 6th centuries BC. Bingo. The name is contemporary with Lehi's tribe. We now know that from an independent written source. Now, in the world of archaeology, nothing is as rich and as decisive as writing. Okay, you can dig up all the artifacts you want, but if you find one with a name on it or an inscription, it's much better than just the artifact by itself. The inscription makes it, as it were. So now we find ourselves with this name, NHM, dated back to the time of Lehi's tribe. There are actually two other altars at the same time where this was found, and there are two other altars which also exhibit the same name, NHM. As many of you know, in Semitic languages, one doesn't write with vowels, one writes with consonants. And so NHM, that in fact is the name, and that's also the name of Nahom. Now the H is problematic because in Old South Arabian it's a soft H, Nahom, whereas the H in Hebrew, which Nephi preserves for us in his period, is probably Nahom. It's a harsher or stronger H. But what you have to do is ask yourself, what did Nephi, Lehi, and Scribe right here when they heard the name of the place? Well, they heard the name which they associated with a Hebrew term, which was familiar to them. The Hebrew term means something quite different from the one in Old South Arabia. But the name is there. It's a personal name, it's a tribal name. It's a name of the place. And that's what we see in the narrative of First Nephi. This place lies a few dozen kilometers north of the modern capital of Yemen, Sana'a. The tribe has been in this place for thousands of years. It still has the same name. And so we know that we're in the neighborhood. And we know that the name was contemporary with Lehi's tribe. Well, after I read that inscription, it sort of bore in on me when I was reading. And I was on the ceiling for the rest of the day. That was really wonderful, to sort of stumble onto this name and then associate it with First Nephi chapter 16 and the name which Nephi preserves for us. Now, there's another piece to this. At that point in South Arabia, all roads turn east. And that's what Nephi says as he opens chapter 17. He says, and from that time we did travel nearly eastward. Remember that? The main incense road, which came up out of Arabia, was coming north. I think I assume, and I think it's a pretty good guess, pretty good assumption, that Lehi and Sariah and their party were either traveling on the incense trail or they were shadowing it as they came south. Nephi says we're going south-southeast. Then he puts this other jog in the trail going east. The caravans are going exactly the opposite direction. There's a major staging area 150 miles to the east of where